Glenn, thanks very much for taking the time today. It's been quite a week for you. We're only on Wednesday and it's already been quite a week. How's it been for you?
You know, it's crazy. We haven't even had New Comic Book Day, and it's already been out of control. I never intended for the world, for this to blow up. It was just me talking on one of my videos, just giving an opinion. I never thought that people would actually flip out over it.
It's such a weird thing, isn't it? Because, like, I mean, I watched it the other day and I saw the reaction, and I'm quite an easygoing guy, right? I never get angry, and I was like incensed when I saw what was happening, because I think I just felt it. I hate a pile-on, right? I hate it when people jump on an individual, and it just seems so unfair. It was like professionals were doing it. There was that weird kind of group of sort of online Twitter crazies that were doing it. Most people, I found out since, though, agreed with you. Have you found that yourself? Have you found the reaction generally positive?
Yeah, most of except for a few of the people, except for which I was very surprised that professionals would be the ones that would be flipping out and being the way they are. That was very shocking. But I have got so many more. I've got tons of, hey, we're behind you 100%. We agree with you. Finally, someone came out and said something, and it was I've got tons of it. In one day, I've got 1,000 new subscribers to my YouTube videos.
That's great.
I only had like 3,000 to begin with it, so it multiplied. But yeah, pretty much it's been positive. Here you are. You reached out to me. I got some messages from Gail Simone, and a couple other creators have on their Twitter, which I don't have. I don't even have Twitter. It's people tell me, hey, this guy's supporting you. This person's supporting you. But it all seems to be, again, from old time, the old time writers, the guys that have been around for a while, that have been. It's weird, because I'm just a guy that just likes to. I know I have a YouTube channel and stuff, so I'm in the limelight a little, but I'm not trying to be in the limelight. I just like to go about my day and just be under the radar. So it's just crazy with the reaction that it is, but most of it, believe it or not, has been positive.
Well, just to recap for people who maybe don't know, to recap a little bit of what happened is, on your YouTube channel, which was, a little bit was sort of taken out and put online, a couple of minutes where you were chatting about comics, and you're a retailer, you've got 30 years experience in retail, and what you were saying was it's really struggling. The American comic book scene, we hear all the time, is doing amazing, but you're just talking about how difficult it is. And the thing I said is, we hear from armchair generals all the time. Even I'm an armchair general. I'm not customer facing the way you are. But the guys that you can't argue with is the retailers in terms of this stuff, because it's not opinion, it's fact. You guys, it's a science, it's not an opinion, isn't it? Because you can actually see what is being sold, what is not being sold, how many people are coming into your shop. You see the footfall as a physical presence, don't you? And that's what I find so interesting, because I've got a lot of friends in retail, and they're saying the same thing you're saying, but you're actually raising your head up and actually saying it out loud, which is what caused the problems for you.
I'm a retailer, but I'm also a huge fan. It's so just for that, it's I'm saying, just as a fan, that I just want to read a good story. That's what I really want, and that's like on our thing. It's funny because it's a catchphrase we use a lot. Just tell me a good story. But something, that's all we want. I want to be able to open up a book and look forward to reading, especially like a mainstream comic again, and getting the feeling that you always got from it. It's and so much has just changed.
Why do you think you hit such a nerve? Because I think I'm always slightly in awe of retailers. Like, I remember the first time I discovered a comic shop, I'm sure you were the same, when I was 13 years old, and I was like, oh my God, these guys do this all day. This is amazing. I just thought this looks like the most fun job in the world. And retailers always kind of, had this incredible knowledge. You know, you'd go in there like in your 1980s comics, but they were telling you about 70s and 60s and 50s comics, you know, and they had them up in the wall and everything. You know, I was always kind of in awe. And that's why I was kind of surprised when you just came in and said, look, retail's having a really tough time with a lot of the quality of the mainstream American market. And people went crazy. What was the nerve you hit, do you think? Because it really was such a crazy overreaction, especially from pros.
I don't know why they. I mean, I don't think people like to. I don't think people like to be told that stuff's not good, or I mean, you know, I mean, people. I mean, I didn't single anybody out. You know, I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't single anybody out. I used for instances with some of the titles. You know, just. I mean, they weren't those titles and those writers, those titles weren't being singled out either. I just was using them as, for instance, Peter Parker. Spider-Man's my favorite character, so I'm very devoted to Peter Parker. And I don't know why they flipped out. I just think that a lot of people. I mean, I like to think I spoke the truth, and people don't. Sometimes the truth hurts. You know, it's. But yeah, to flip out like that, I have no idea.
And it was funny because I think the thing that got my goat, you know, was that it felt like these tactics that have been used for a little while, you know, like if somebody strays outside of the narrative, a mob forms very quickly, a digital mob forms, and it's a relatively small number of people, but they're very vocal and very vicious, and they try and destroy someone. You know, they come in and, you know, they try and deplatform people, they try and demonetize them in some way, you know, and I think that's what angered me. But I think something weird happened with you, and I think it was a Spartacus moment, right? I know it sounds crazy, but I think like people have just had enough of this, you know, and they can see it with their own eyes when they walk into the comic store. The stores are not healthy just now. They're nothing like they've been in our lifetimes. And I think there was a weird catalyst. Like your thing really just was a bit of a turning point, I think. And everybody, the number of people who were talking to me privately and sending me links to your thing saying, this is outrageous, you know, and the response I got when I retweeted it and talked about it too, I just think people thought enough is enough. And what's interesting is I call them cancel pigs. And it's the people, you know, that try and take other people down, try and destroy people online. You know, they all went into hiding. It was really interesting. I think there was a couple of hours where it was the usual shenanigans where they were looking to lynch someone. And then it just flipped. And everybody was like, oh no, hang on, this is actually quite shameful what they're doing. And people are deleting their tweets. So all the cancel pigs all scarpered, which I thought was really fascinating. And I don't know, I just hope, for me, comics is fun, isn't it? You know, like I get into comics because I love it. You know, you don't want to see these kind of, you know, these weird things happening like this, you know, where people are out to hurt other people.
I agree. I mean, I mean, what is a comic shop? I mean, you're going in and they're fun, just like you said. I mean, you go in there to escape the real world. You know, I mean, because we all know that you know, there isn't a big green guy smashing a guy in a middle suit. It doesn't happen, but it's your escapism from what's going on in the real world. We don't need a lot of that real world stuff in the comics either. You know, I mean, just let us just make something that's fun and something that's you know, something that is entertaining. You know, I mean, again, some of these guys, I mean, I know some of them, you know, someone says, oh, look, this guy pulled his tweet down. This guy pulled his tweet down because he's been getting trashed on too much or whatever. They probably shouldn't have tweeted it anyways, you know, it's, but I mean, I get it. I mean, most of these people, what did they have to say? I mean, it was more of, oh, look, it's the fat old bald guy, you know, it's typical comic store owner. I mean, that's where you go. I mean, they didn't come back with any retort of, no, this is why we do this, or this is my thinking on how I wrote this book. It was all, oh, it's the fat guy over there. You know what I mean? So it makes no sense.
Well, I thought you had total dignity, I thought, actually, because there's an expression in politics over here was that you don't play the man, you play the ball. You know, like you don't go after the individual. And I thought your criticisms were very broad. They were very general. You were just like, I'm not really enjoying any of this stuff that the big two are putting out right now, you know? And that's why I think it was doubly sickening, you know, when they then started coming after you. But again, I think I had the opposite reaction because I think everybody I spoke to was on your side. Everybody. So I think you've turned yourself into a superstar here. I mean, you are now Spartacus. You know?
You know, and that wasn't my goal.
But tell me, like, I mean, you're on the front lines, right? And I'm obsessed with retail, right? Because retail's our bread and butter, right? You know, like I write comics, but they don't get to readers without retailers. So anywhere I am in the world, it drives my wife crazy. When we're on holiday, I'll say, let's seek out the comic shop. And I always go and I talk to the comic store guys and ask how things are. And what you're saying is just what everyone has said to me for about 5, 6, 7 years. You know, like, I mean, what is your experience? Because we see opinions online, right? But you see the numbers, right? You're holding physical copies of comics. Where would you say the direct market is right now compared to your experience of it 10 years ago, even? You know, like, I know you've got 30 years experience, but compared to 2013, you know, what does it feel like to you?
You know, I mean, it's down, but I mean, comics is still strong. It's
Yeah.
the big two that we're losing, the mainstream stuff. I mean, I promote a lot of indie books, so
Yeah.
I can get some of these guys that aren't liking what they're reading from Marvel and DC to try a different indie book. But
Yeah.
there are some guys who just want to read just all superheroes, and I get that too, because I love my superheroes.
Sure.
And those are the guys that we're losing. At least I'm able to, for someone when it says, hey, this is not good. Well, hey, why don't you try this book?
Yeah.
This book you may like, and they may or they may not. And if they don't, I'll find another book for them that they like it. But unfortunately, some of the people that just are only Marvel DC, they're slowly buying less and less and less. And eventually, if something doesn't change, those people are going to be gone.
Yeah. And how important do you think Marvel and DC are to the overall American business?
I think, unfortunately, I think if they go, most comic shops go. You know, it's I mean, they are. I mean, there's a reason why they call them the big two. They are. You know, it's and it's hard. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you've got the independent books that tell great stories, but it's not Spider-Man. You know, it's not. It doesn't have that 70 years or 80 years of history. You know, it's so for you know, I mean, when some people come in that just want to relive their childhood and try a few books out again of they were reading Hulk or whatever. Hulk is nowhere near what they ever read. They may not like it, or they may like it, but I think if those two go, I think that's what you'll see 90% of the comic shop just gone.
Well, tell me, like, do you find that whenever Marvel and DC is doing well, everything does well, and the opposite of that too? Like, if Marvel and DC are struggling, it becomes hard to sell even really great indie books too?
Yes, because you're still getting less people coming into the store now, because I mean they're coming in for the known brand, or again they're so disenchanted with what they're reading.
Yeah.
They don't want to take a chance on something new just because they're like, yeah, what's it going to be? The same old, same old. And sometimes it's really difficult to get them to try the other things.
Well, see, I'm interested in this because I remember, you know, back when I was at Marvel, like that Marvel Renaissance that Joe Quesada had going was really interesting because we had a creator-owned boom come out of that around about 2008 to 2013. Because everybody was in buying their Marvel comics at the time, and DC was doing very well at the time too. So it meant books like Kick-Ass and all my kind of stuff and everything was able to sell because we had a high footfall in comic stores. But it was also the same if you think about it back in the 80s as well, when the Image guys were sort of making their bones over at Marvel. You know, that boosted them up, and then they were able to go to Image after huge mainstream Marvel success. And even the Marvel Universe kind of came out of DC doing very well at the very end of the 1950s, early 1960s. So people have to be in the habit of picking up big mainstream comics before they try new things, don't they?
Yeah. I mean that's usually how that's a lot of times how you can see what creators you like, because they've been reading the mainstream comics. These guys have now made it have now excelled over what they were doing, like yourself. You know, it's and then you branched off and you did your own thing. People will follow you because because they liked you for what you were doing on the characters that they loved, that they're willing to take the chance on something brand new and say, I'm still going to try that. Mark Millar wrote Mark Millar wrote the Spider-Man book I liked. I'm trying his Kick-Ass book, and that's how it builds.
I think there's, to me, it seems like such a no-brainer, but the number of people that I see, especially online, saying, burn it all down, would be so much better without Marvel and DC, they're tired old companies, I think they really missed that point, don't they? That the malaise in the comic stores just now is down to the fact people aren't coming in at all because they've dropped out of the habit of buying the Marvel and DC books.
Yeah, it's I mean, if there's no Marvel and DC books, you're not getting people to come into the store.
Yeah. And what do you think if you did lose the direct market? And I think, Chuck Rosansky's been talking about this, Phil Boyle down in Florida has been talking about it. If the direct market went, what do you think the comic scene is going to look like in America?
I think at that point, you're not going to see many comic shops. Because now if we've got to start buying individuals from, each and every independent company, it's not going to be profitable. Mm-hmm. You're going to probably just see digital, which I'd hate to see. I mean, I don't like turning on my computer, half the time. I like to sit down with a book or a comic book or a newspaper and read it that way. You're going to see digital, but from most of the people who come in the shop, even the younger people, they don't want to read it digital. There's a reason why they come into the shop. They want to sit and read the comic. They want to have the experience of being in there and shooting the shit with other people who like the same stuff, So I think if they were gone, I don't think we have a comic market.
Yeah. And the digital thing's funny, isn't it? Because I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, we should just give up paper and go entirely digital." But they've been trying. Marvel and DC were very, very keen to get that going because it would cut out retail, cut out distribution, and it would be almost entirely pure profit. But it just didn't catch on. Like it never really sold more than 10%, usually much less, of print sales. So for 15 years, they tried to get that going, and Comixology's kind of wrapped up now, hasn't it?
Yeah, so I never thought when they were pushing it. I mean, you heard customers come in. This is the end of the comics. The digital is going to be way to go. I hope not. And I always thought, I said, no, I don't think so. There are going to be people who do want digital because they prefer not to leave the house. It's simple. They can read it on their tablet or whatever. But it was always going to be a small percentage and it proved that it was still just a small percentage. I mean, me personally, I think that if comics went digital, I probably wouldn't read comics anymore because that's not the way I want to read them.
Because even as a creator, I mean, I'm guilty of this too. Like you work at Marvel and DC, you go off and do your own thing, and then hopefully you build something out of that. But it's not been healthy for the industry, hasn't it? I mean, it's good in certain periods for individual creators, but the industry itself, with everybody disappearing and going off and doing creator owns, has meant a destabilized Marvel and DC.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, but I also wish. I mean, I would like to see some of them come back for maybe just a 6-issue run, just to show, a story, to write a story to show people, hey, look, this is how these books should be written, and maybe someone else that comes in will take off from that and go, because I mean, and I'm not saying, hey, you need to go work for Marvel again, but I'm telling you, if you went and did a story at Marvel, it would probably be the #1 book that would for that month ordered. It's and if we could get 10, 15 creators to say, I want to do a 6-issue series, and I know that's just wishful thinking, but it's I think people would see what how comics should be written and how those characters should be written, and just maybe someone there at Marvel or DC, but I'm not singling out Marvel, would say, all right, we need to hire some guys, or we need to hire some guys with some plans here, not just any random thing that comes out.
I totally agree. I mean, I talked about this a few months ago, and what I felt was you can't do it with just 1 or 2 creators. I think it has to be all the best creators who are currently available, 20 creators, to get everyone to come back. Or, and I don't just mean veterans, I mean people who are excellent, but maybe on the indie scene just now. But you have to make it really financially viable for them to do it as well, to make it attractive. And I came up with this plan where, there was a much more generous back-end royalty scheme if you can get your sales over 60,000. So you've got this monetized motivator, you know, to get people selling a lot. But what do you think that would do? I mean, see, as a retailer, compared to what you're doing at the moment, if you had a bunch of, you know, huge names, you know, if you had like, I don't know, Olivier Coipel and Joss Whedon or something like that doing the Avengers, if you'd Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely doing Spider-Man and so on, how much do you think you could jack up sales on your Marvel books if you had those real A+ guys again?
I mean, I don't know if sales would double, but you know, I mean, you would see a significant. I think you would see a significant rise because these comic a lot of these comic readers are big fans of them. So no matter where they go, they will read whatever they write, or at least try a story that they write, and just maybe after they're off their run that they do, maybe a 6-issue run or whatever they decided that was going to be done, those people may say, "Man, I really love this character for the 12 issues, 6 issues that I read it. Let's see where this book goes." And I mean, that's the only way you're going to build it up. You need to get someone there to see where it goes.
Because if you look at like Marvel and DC, the real sort of golden period for them in relatively modern times would be mid-80s to late 80s. And it was quite a short amount of time, but it did buy them an awful long time afterwards because people were in the habit of the comics and they fell in love with the characters, wouldn't they? So I think you only even almost need it for a couple of years and it gets people back into the swing of it, doesn't it?
I think so. But I don't know. Again, I don't know if these creators would want to do it for a couple of years. I mean, because they'll need to raise. I mean, again, I don't know what the pay rate is for what they pay you guys or what anything. But I mean, they're gonna have to make it. They're gonna have to make it so you're willing to stop doing a creator-owned thing to come and do something that you're just getting paid for. They're gonna have to make that. They're gonna have to make the pay rate beneficial for the creators.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. Like Marvel, for example, when I started, 23 years ago, they paid $90 a page. And I quickly got mine up to about $1,000 a page, you know, by about 3-4 years later. And a few guys were on those kind of rates. But now I'm hearing, you know, literally a generation later, there's people working for less than $90 a page, you know, a tiny fraction that we were working for. And you know, you're never going to get people to come back for that kind of money. And like, I don't know. I mean, I think you just have to rethink it. I mean, because we had a blank piece of paper whenever they come up with the royalty scheme in the first place. But the situation that comics is in right now, I think something radical like that kind of really has to be done to get people back. And I think it'll also be great for the indie scene because indie sales are minuscule as well. You know, overall broadly, they're minuscule compared to what they were. When you look at, especially compared to things like Dogman and so on, all these other things outside of comics, like I talked about this before, but Publishers Weekly had the numbers, which was the American scene, the graphic novel scene in America is only 9% American produced products, and that includes all the indie books too. You know, so but that's your big thing you would say to people, being on the front lines. A strong Marvel and DC will help everyone, you think?
I think so. Yeah, I totally do, because that is what actually is getting people into the store. They're strong. I think everyone else will be strong too.
And that doesn't seem a controversial message. I mean, you know, this week you seem to be like the new Trump or Tucker Carlson or something like this, you know, where the whole thing is becoming weirdly politicized, you know. But I mean, you just want to read some good comics and
That's it. I just want to read. Just tell me a good story. You know, that's all I'm asking for. There was nothing political that was in my statements. If people who watch my videos, you never hear me say anything political, anything like that. It's just about comics or what we're talking about in the store at that time. It could be sports cards, wrestling, whatever, you know. But it's I don't give my opinions on who's president, who's not. No, that, you know, something like I said in that video where I said, you know, don't write yourself in the book because we don't care. Well, people don't care who I like either. You know, I mean, so I don't write myself into my own video, even though I'm in it. You know, it's just crazy how they try to make it all political and whatnot, because it was nothing like that. It was pretty much just saying, stop writing crap and put out a good story.
Well, you know, like I say, I really hope this is a turning point, honestly, Glenn, because you know, I salute you for your 30 years you've been doing this. I mean, I just said on Twitter that the only reason I have this great life that I'm lucky to have is because of the people that have been selling the books, you know, for my entire career, you know. So I just want to say thank you, you know, and I think it's brilliant what you do. And thanks for getting up early every day and making the trek into the comic store and hopefully bringing in a new generation of comic book addicts.
I hope so. I hope so. Hopefully we can get it going in before it's time for me to retire. You know, it's but I really appreciate all your kind words. I appreciate you sticking up for me. You know, it's I mean, like I said, the last thing that I ever thought is, oh, hey, Mark Millar wants to talk to you. You know, it's this guy doesn't even know who I am, but you know, I appreciate that. You know, it's.
Well, you're going up on this interview page with all the comic book creators, you know, like all the guys I love. I do this thing. I try and do about 2 or 3 a month, although I'm always late with them. I love to do a big interview with guys I just love, you know, from the comic book industry. So you're in amongst that crowd now. You know, you'll be there forever on YouTube on our channel.
Thank you, thank you.
And listen, I hope this is a turning point too, because what I really loved, I think that here's the one bit of hope I take away from this is a guy comes up with an opinion that doesn't quite fit the narrative where they're saying, no, everything's fine. Everybody piles on him, but then everybody defends him. And the people who were piling on really felt ashamed, I think, you know, and they should be. And I want it to become a fashionable thing, you know, to not accept this anymore, you know, like, because we've seen it. I mean, I get into comics just because it's fun and I love it, you know. So like the idea that you pile on people and try and destroy them and everything, that's got to become shameful. You know, anybody who was involved in that kind of behavior will be remembered, you know, like nobody wants to work with people like that, you know, or they don't want to be friends with people like that, you know. So like, I hope this is a turning point, and I think it is. I weirdly do. I've been really quite heartened when I see the response. Listen, good luck to you, and I hope the shop has huge success. I'm going to do my bit. I'll try and work hard and make sure you get something decent to sell on my part.
Hey, you know something? I don't think there's been anything that doesn't sell right now that you've written. So it's yeah,
it's very kind.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So yeah, keep up the great work. You know, it's been, you know, it's everything. People just buy stuff. Oh, Mark Millar's doing this. I need to try it. You know, it's
they're maybe mistaking me for Frank Millar. Maybe they're thinking it's Frank Millar and buying it by mistake. Thanks again for taking the time, Glenn. I know you've got the shop to open this morning and everything as well, so I won't take up any more of your time. But thank you and continued success.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time out to do this chat. I really appreciate it.
All the best to you, Glenn. See you then.
All right. Sorry about the video too. You know.
Don't worry. See you later.
All right. Thank you.